So here's the difference between the Cornish, or the, not the Cornish cross, the um, Barred Rock rooster that we grew. This ended up being 7 weeks old. And then this is the Murray's Big Red Broiler. Was also 7 weeks old. This one weighed out at 4 pounds. This one weighed out at 2 pounds. Um, Obviously, we had to butcher it. It was one of our little free chicks, but it was a rooster, and we live in the city, so we couldn't keep it. And we were going out of town, so we really didn't want to only raise this guy up to butcher weight. So here he is, 2 pounds, tiny little guy. You can see the legs here are pretty thin in comparison to the Big Red Broiler. I was really impressed with the Big Red Broiler's growth. Usually it's supposed to like take, what does it say, like 12 weeks or something like that? 10, 12 weeks?
At least 10, yeah.
10 weeks, 12 weeks to reach this size. So I'm not sure what we did right to get them to grow out to this level. They're very comparative to a Cornish cross at this point. We took the same food. They ate the same food. We did not feed them organic. It's very hard to get quality organic chicken feed where we're at right now. We had ordered some chicken feed for some organics for our layers prior to this, doing the batch, and what we found was it was extremely stale, and they didn't like it. So because we were new to this, we just kind of wanted to experiment and see what we could get out of what the 2 different batches. We did a batch of Cornish cross, and they averaged out to be a little over 4 pounds. And the Murray's Big Red Broilers averaged out to be a little over 4 pounds. So there's not a big difference there. What we did notice was these guys do have a lot of darker feathers. You can see them a little bit better. They didn't pluck out nearly as easily as the Cornish cross. But once we figured out how to pluck these guys, it really actually went pretty fast. We only have a drill plucker. We don't have a big plucker yet. We haven't invested in that yet. But the little Barred Rock rooster, he plucked out really, really well. He's got some bruises under his skin because he was a feisty one. He fought quite a bit. We definitely would have preferred to have grown him out more. But you can see that the Big Red Broilers have a pretty decent size breast. This is really more what you're going to get with chickens like the breast chicken, the American breasts, and the hybrids of the Big Red Broilers. It's not quite as tippy or huge as the Cornish cross. What we did really notice with these guys was the reason we had to butcher them at 6.5, 7 weeks was because they were fully mature. They were crowing, and we live in a city, and we had these guys growing in our garage. So we couldn't really have them crowing, so we had to butcher them earlier than we normally would. If we had let these grow a couple more weeks, they would have gotten to be between 8 and 10 pounds, and no doubt about it. The amount of feed that they ate was pretty much exactly the same as the Cornish cross. We had more of them this time, so we did notice a little bit more of them, a little bit more feed consumption. They didn't waste nearly as much. And this guy was kind of picked on anyway, so. As for fat, we definitely noticed that the Murray's broilers had a lot more fat under their skin than the Cornish cross, and there's no excuse for that because they ate exactly the same food, and we butchered them. Actually, we butchered these guys even a hair earlier than we did the Cornish cross. Probably a couple days earlier than we did the Cornish. And the only other rooster that we've ever butchered before, he was 12 weeks, and he was probably double the size of this, so he was closer to maybe 3 pounds than the 2-pounder. But yeah, he's definitely got a pronounced keel, and definitely does not have a lot of meat. He's very narrow, but then again, he's still just a baby. Not a lot of meat on there, but we're gonna roast him up, and we're gonna find out how he tastes and what it looks like after it's done. So here we go. All right, so here we go. They are all trussed up. You just use standard kitchen twine and kind of button them up a la Thomas Keller style. Simply just salt. That's all we put in there. We put it in the cavity and we sprinkle a little bit on the breast. And then we started out at 400 degrees for about 45 minutes. This guy is not going to take that long, so I'm going to check him in probably about half an hour. And then this guy will probably go for about 45 minutes. So I do him just at 400 degrees, like for the entire time. 400 degrees. Yeah, this guy's not going to take that long. Poor little guy. All right, so here we are. We've got little bird over here, big bird over here. Roasted up really nicely. Roasted it till about 165 on both birds. They actually took the same amount of time, which was kind of surprising to me. So I'm going to cut it up and show you the meat. Okay, so I parted it up. And obviously the comparison is there's way more meat there. But this is a heritage breed. It was butchered, and I checked my records. It was actually 8 weeks. It was butchered at 8 weeks. And it's very, very delicious. I mean, it's chicken. It tastes exactly the same. So the one thing that I can say, though, is this is a respectable amount of food for one person. Maybe even 2 people, if they're tiny little children. You hush, you don't get in me. So, yeah, you can butcher heritage birds at 8 weeks old and get a meal out of it. If you let them grow a little bit bigger, even to 12 weeks, we butchered a rooster that was at 12 weeks. He was over 3 pounds. So even though this is a hybrid, it's still a hybrid. It's still going to give you, it's still not going to be as sustainable as if you use a heritage breed. So, my recommendation is do what you want to do. I mean, butcher them young, and then you have the nice tender meat. Butcher them older, and you have, stewing rooster. And if you decide that you want to keep some to reproduce and have a sustainable life, then, the heritage breed is definitely the way to go. The breasts are, it's a tiny chicken. It's not full grown, so obviously the meat is going to be less, but it's still a decent meal for 1 or maybe even 2 people. This one will feed 4, so just get twice as many. And one thing I can say is the feed ratio. These guys were voracious eaters. They just ate and ate and ate and ate. And this little Roo was definitely at the bottom of the pecking order. He got his fair share, but he did not eat nearly as much as the monster broilers. I've heard that the feed ratio is about 5-1 for heritage breeds. That doesn't seem to be the case. I feel like, well, I suppose to reach the same amount of weight, but it would take 5 times the amount of feed. But this guy didn't eat much. And, if we were able to free range him, I'm sure he would have eaten a lot less too. But anyway, that's my take. It tastes like chicken. They're both really young birds, so they're both really super tender. They didn't really have a whole lot of time to develop that nice, beautiful chickeny flavor, but they both taste definitely like homegrown chicken and not like the store. So, yeah, they're both delicious.